day 7 of the 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence. And today I am talking about sexual consent. And I know this is a topic that people are really skeptical to go into, especially men, because for certain reasons. So I was chatting with a WhatsApp friend of mine once in the past about sexual consent in marriage. This is a very tricky area of sexual consent because you're probably thinking, oh, do I have to ask my wife every single time I want to have sex with her? She has to, I have to ask her, go through the process of asking her, and she has to think about it and then say yes before anything happens. And I'm like, yes, definitely. But then most of the time it doesn't happen like that. The thing about sex here, when it is mutual, is that it just happens naturally. You don't have to force anybody to do anything with you. From the kisses, then the next thing happens, and that's just how it goes. That's how it should be when there is no need for consent. But the moment you're trying to do something and the woman or the man says, no, I don't want to do this right now, then you stop immediately. It doesn't matter how aroused you are, or if the person kissed you back at first, or if the person touched you a certain way. If the person doesn't want to do it, you stop. Even if it's halfway through, you have to stop. That's how sexual consent works. Now let's go into what is sexual consent. It is a voluntary agreement between all parties to be involved in a sexual experience. What makes consent? When we talk about sexual consent, what makes consent right? What makes it legit? What makes it actual consent? So people don't come to me and say, oh, you raped me or you did this to me. Now, for consent to be valid, there has to be clear communication, respect for boundaries, and absence of coercion or force. When we say coercion, we mean just do it now. It's just going to take 5 minutes. Let's just do it. It won't take long. Don't worry, it won't hurt as much. When you're trying to convince the person through begging, explanation, or whatever, when the person has already said no, you're trying to coerce the person into having a sexual intercourse with you, and that is not consent. That is not a valid consent. There has to be no coercion, no form of force. There has to be clear communication, and there has to be respect for boundaries. There are certain things that some people may not be comfortable doing during intercourse, and if the person tells you no, I don't want to do this, it is not your place to force them or coerce them in any way to do it with you. Next section. Why is consent important? You're probably asking, why do I have to ask the person I want to do something with? Especially if the person is my wife or if the person is my girlfriend. Why do I have to ask first before we do something? Consent recognizes the right of an individual to their own body and their own boundaries. When there is a valid consent, you didn't give the person the right. You've respected their personal boundaries. You've respected their rights to their own bodies. Another reason why consent is important is it encourages partners to discuss their desires, their comfort levels, how far they want to go during intercourse. It ensures a healthier and more communicative relationship. I cannot emphasize, or nobody really can emphasize enough, how important communication is in creating a healthy relationship. It is very important, and consent is the key to true communication during sexual intercourse that leads to a healthy relationship. Consent also provides or promotes a positive environment. Consent always gives positivity. It always gives clear minds, and there is no elephant in the room anywhere when consent is involved. In terms of sex, consent ensures all parties feel safe during sexual intercourse. It ensures the well-being and the safety of all parties involved in sex or sexual intercourse. Consent builds trust in any relationship, be it if you're dating or if you're married. It builds trust like nothing else. And finally, it helps prevent misunderstandings. So I'm always like, when consent is involved and all three of the things that make up a valid consent are cleared, then you have nothing to be scared of. Now, what are other things you should know about sexual consent? The first thing is, in many jurisdictions, I'm sure it's not just in Nigeria, but there are parts of Nigeria that it is not like a law. But in many jurisdictions around the world, sex without consent is illegal. When consent is involved, it is illegal. Also, consent is not a one-time agreement. You're not meant to think, oh, she agreed to have sex with me the last time, so she should not have any oppositions today. Or we are dating and we've had sex before, like lots of times before. What does she mean she's not in the mood? Or something like, oh, she's my wife. Why would she say she does not want to have sex? Nah, it is not a one-time thing. It is not a one-time agreement. She agreed the other time does not mean it covers the rest of the time you guys would want to do something together. Once there she says no, just because she has said yes before doesn't make the no invalid. It is not a one-time agreement. It is a continuous agreement. It is a continuous thing. Also, consent can be withdrawn. Okay, maybe you and someone had already like made agreements to, have fun tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, and then the person is like, right in the room, you guys are already taking off your clothes, and the person is like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And you're like, why would you say that? You already agreed yesterday. You even came here. Why did you come here if you knew you were not going to do it? You have to do it. Cut the crap. Cut the effing crap. Consent can be withdrawn in fact, even if you're in the middle of sex and the person says, I don't want to do this anymore, you cannot force the person to continue. Thank you. That's the end of day 7. Please do not forget to click like. Do not forget to click share. Do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Once you click like, more people find this video and more people learn the things you're learning right now. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.